Gary Lipske has built businesses, produced films, founded a nonprofit. He's a speaker, he's an author, but his leadership style and the approach he takes is rather simple. Connect first and then lead. He explained how your team knows way more than you do. We also discussed something else. How do you know when it's time to take the lead? I suspect you already know the answer. So if you've been waiting to pull the trigger on something, this one's for you. Check it out. Hello and welcome to the Purpose Matrix. I am very excited for today's guest, Mr. Gary Lipske. Gary, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Phil.
So just so you get to know Gary a little bit, longtime entrepreneur and real estate investor, multifamily, national speaker and best-selling author, 2 different books, Best in Class and Invest Smart. He's built businesses, co-produced films. He's founded a nonprofit serving underprivileged youth, has worked with youth a lot, and actually built an educational leadership company serving thousands of students K through 12. So I'm sure we'll talk about not just leadership today, but leadership and how do we develop leadership in kids. I'm excited to get into that. I need the help there. How about that? We got 5 kids ourselves, so trying to figure that out is always, honestly, it's just really, really important. But Gary, thanks again for coming on. Just give us a little bit of a backstory. You said, entrepreneurship for a long time. You've done a lot of different things as well. So tell us kind of your upbringing and how this all started.
Yeah, I grew up in North New Jersey, and as a teen, I wanted to have some spending money, so we would auto detail cars during the summer and shovel driveways during the winter, and was always just trying to hustle a little bit to make some money. During college, there was a restaurant delivery service in Boston. I went to Boston University, and we started it with my roommate during a summer break. This was way before DoorDash and Postmates.
Right.
And we did that one summer, and it went from, I think 3 deliveries the first night to, by the end of the summer, 60 deliveries. And we were doing really well. I was actually debating taking a semester off and continuing to run it, but we ended up going back to school, and I started another one right after school and got into film, and always just kind of try to follow my passion. There was always this kind of creative piece to everything I did. Even in real estate, there was this creative line of numbers and finding solutions, finding ways to add value to people, and that was always kind of guiding me along the way, and not really ever working for anyone else. It wasn't punching in, punching out wasn't my thing, and I like being in the thick of things, making decisions and having my butt on the line, and that kind of drove me through really my whole life.
Restaurant industry, film industry, youth leadership development, I'll say, author, speaker, real estate, I'll be blunt, all over the place, Gary, bouncing around. And I think this is a common desire for people in the entrepreneurship space, shiny objects. And there's so many opportunities once you get into the business world, and we could go to this, we could go to this, we could go to this. How do we narrow this down, or how have you tried to narrow this down and stay focused on what you're really good at?
Yeah, and I never really was doing 2 things at once. I eventually sold the after school business, and I was just dabbling in real estate, and I didn't want, my business partner at the time was like, we can do side things. And I'm like, I don't want to be cheating this company and cheating the other company. So I'm only focusing on one thing. Even like multifamily, that's all I do. I have a few markets. I don't do I'm not chasing markets all over the place or different asset classes. There was always, even though there was different industries, that I was 100% focused on what I was doing at the time. And I was always good with the creative side and the number side, and that's, being a producer is all like getting things done as a leader for all the businesses, was like solving problems, being creative. So it's different industries, but you're kind of doing the same thing in a way.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it, because I think I think success in the business world, whether you're a leader at a company or a leader of the company, whatever your role is, leader, at the end of the day, there's put the right people in place, build systems and processes around it that those people can excel in, and just focus on culture, vision, strategy. But I think the message there is still keeping the main thing the main thing. I heard this phrase once too, by the way, never a new how, never a new thing without a new who. Like, make sure you have a person that can, if you're doing a second thing, if you're going to be spending your time doing it, you're going to be stealing from the main thing, and that can be risky. So make sure you have someone that can run that. But keeping the main thing, I think, is the main message. But what about someone that maybe is is working and thinking about, I can't just quit this and start how do they get there? Like, how do they get to, okay, I want to start this new thing, but I'm not just going to jump ship, or should they jump ship? Like, what's your guidance to them?
Yeah, and I see a lot of people struggling with that, and I kind of struggled with that too. It could take years to kind of like gain the courage to try something else. You have that safety net of what you've been doing and taking that leap of faith. And certainly, we're in an entrepreneurial group that really helps a lot. Entrepreneurship it can be very solopreneurship, and surrounding yourself with other like-minded individuals. Having a kind of board of directors is a huge help. You need a sounding board to kind of talk through things. People are very willing to give advice if you are vulnerable and open up and say, hey, these are the things I'm kind of looking to explore. And entrepreneurship, like I said, can be very, very lonely. But if you ask for a guidance, it can really rocket fuel your growth and get you comfortable in an uncomfortable situation.
The power of your network, the power of associations is so critical. I have five pillars of success, basically. By the way, the acronym is PEACE, but purpose, education, association, which gives you courage, by the way, because you said that too. And then just be an example, be a leader. But to highlight the associate, like to me, the one thing that changes everything else is your network and your association. So if you have a goal to want to be an entrepreneur, find other people that either mentor you that are entrepreneurs, or at least just find 4 other people that want to be entrepreneurs with you, and you're in a similar phase, because they all might have a single mentor that you're capturing the information, the knowledge from their mentors and your mentor together. And there's just a compounding effect of that. And having these discussions, having a dialogue on a regular basis with folks that are like-minded like you, is going to give you the courage to act. You can't be in that environment with 4 other people on a regular basis and for years and years not take action. You're going to build up the courage collectively, which is why a group like that is so powerful. What are you really passionate about? And if you don't know that, by the way, you got to start taking action and have courage to figure it out. You got to move in that direction, right? I mean, talk about courage a little bit more and how you built up the courage to do some of the things that you've done.
Yeah, I guess it started with a college roommate who, when he's like, let's start a restaurant delivery service. And I'm like, sure, let's do it. I don't know anything about that, but he kind of taught me to, just go for it, be all in. I'm very grateful to have that experience at such a young age, because when you're younger, you're obviously a lot more fearless. As you get older, you start worrying about all these other factors. If you have kids, a wife, different things, and you become a lot more comfortable. And pushing yourself outside your comfort zone is so critical, because there are moments in your life where you can go for it or play it safe, and sometimes going for it doesn't work out. I mean, life isn't perfect. Even the best laid plans, doesn't go as well. But if you stay in something, if you're persistent, you make it through to the other side. A lot of people quit right before the going is going to get good, because they face resistance. And I mean, that's life. Where personally, business, there are these seasons where things don't go perfectly. Nothing goes perfectly, and we need to remember that and kind of be like water. Not resist things, but let it flow. And when you let it flow, things just go much, much smoother.
Well, first of all, I had like when I was, I don't even know how old I was, 25, and we started a business, and it did not go well. I left my job, started that, had to come back, and I found I couldn't get back in that company, found a different job, right? And now I look back, it's like, okay, we lost some money, whatever. I learned so much. I learned so much about it wasn't my passion. It wasn't a good business model. There's so many things I learned from it. Um, the key there is, by the way, courage versus age, I think, is a really important point to make. If you're older, don't let that be an excuse for you. Okay. But if you're younger, recognize it might get harder to take the leap. So if you're thinking about it, like really think about it, find your people, the 4 people you need, and move in that direction. If you're 23, 25, no kids, not a lot of quote responsibilities, it's going to get harder. And again, I don't want that to be an excuse to older folks that are thinking about this. But the main point is when you put value in your past failures, if you apply value to that, not regret, not resenting others, but when you apply value to your past failures, not only does it feel better for the past now, but also you start to do things because of the lessons you may learn in addition to the success you may have, right? It's more about becoming the best version of yourself than it is the success you have. Like that's the real goal, is to become a better person. So when you apply value to failures of the past, it gives you more courage now to say, worst case scenario is this doesn't go well, and I'm going to learn a lot from it. I'm going to create new connections or become a better business leader or whatever it might be because of this.
Yeah, 100%. Nothing goes perfectly. And so, I learn lessons every day, mistakes I make. I've certainly had plenty of failures in my life, but that's what makes me a better entrepreneur, a better person, a better father, because of the things I've learned along the way and being within other groups. So that mentorship, that being a part of these groups too, is not only am I sharing my lessons, but I'm 4Xing it if I have, 4 of the people in my group,
I love that. And I love that you added that, because you're going to learn from your own actions, your own failures, but put yourself in an environment where you're sharing and being vulnerable so other people can learn from your failures and you can learn from all of those. And there's a big compound effect of that. You also referenced there, you're a father and you've done youth leadership. So I want to talk about leadership and developing leadership in our youth, because you built a program around this. You did, K-12, thousands of students. Just tell me more about that. I'll leave it open-ended and let you kind of take it from there.
Yeah, it's all started when I was in high school. I was lifting weights at the Y, and the woman, the director there, is like, "Hey, my sports person hasn't showed up. Do you want to teach sports for kids? I'm going to pay you." And we're like, "Teach sports to kids and get paid? Sure, I'll do that." And I started with 1 class, and it led to like 5 classes because I guess I was good at it. I liked it, but it wasn't until I was 30, many years later. I was having a kid. I was doing some film stuff, but I was trying to pay some bills, and a friend of mine did music education for a school, and he introduced me to a school, and they said, "We need a lifeguard." And I went out and found him a lifeguard, and we were starting to do some sports programs for schools. They needed some male leadership because it was mostly females that were working with the younger students. And I hired someone on my team who worked with at-risk youth. His parents were teachers, and we just kept developing more programs. We started doing a leadership program for the Park and Recs in Los Angeles. We would take them on weekend trips and do a lot of team building, led hiking, and ultimately it led to running after school programs for schools, elementary, middle, and ultimately high school. We started doing for Los Angeles County anti-smoking campaigns, and we let the students run it versus teacher-led, and it was so much more powerful. And so during lunchtime, and the kids were working on this for a while, and we had the money to like give them support, and we had a curriculum, and because it was them, it was so much more powerful. Again, this was like my business partner and I being creative, solving problems, working with the school district and the county, saying what are the biggest issues, and coming up with different ideas. And they kept hiring us versus some of people that have been in the business for a very long time and just weren't coming up with new ideas, and they really liked our style. We had adventure stuff too, where we would bring portable rock walls to schools and teach them leadership through these adventures. It wasn't about getting to the top of the rock wall or being the best rock climber, but it was about trust and communication, stepping outside your comfort zone and building confidence. And we would take kids off site as well. And a lot of these kids only lived within, let's say, a half-mile radius of the school. Like their whole life was there, and we would take them to a park and, a few miles away, and they were like, I never knew this existed, and how much joy this park can bring to me, and break out of the stress that they had.
I think working with youth, like one thing I would say, youth, and especially it sounds like some underprivileged youth that just don't have a lot of options too. And especially if we're coming from a place where our kids have access to those things that you talked about naturally, I think the perspective that can provide to get involved in something like that had to be probably profound on you. I think the perspective you can gain from that, I think, is really profound. So just encourage people to think about spending time with youth, especially if they're underprivileged, I think can be really powerful. As you've done leadership development, how critical is that? What's your leadership philosophy or style even?
Yeah, I want everyone to have ownership thinking from, so if, I'm in real estate, I want my property manager, my leasing assistant, my maintenance tech. I want everyone to go that extra mile. And how I develop that is we do regular site visits and make them, I want their opinions. Like they're the boots on the ground. And so I've always valued all of my staff's opinion. I want them to have an opinion. I want them to push back. I'm not on the ground as much as they are, so their input is critical to how things that we provide our residents, or when we were working with students, whatever it may be. I building those relationships is so critical, because that's only gonna provide a better product and a better NOI at the end of the day. And then I could bring them up through the organization, because they know that they're valued and they're going to go the extra mile. And so it's a slow development of leadership, and not everyone's going to be a leader. I get that, but that's something that we always strive for in all my organizations.
The natural tendency of a hard driving entrepreneur sometimes can be tell people what to do, be decisive, go, we don't have time, like we got to go, we got to act, right? And in the short term, you will get more results doing that. You will have better results in the next 3 months, 6 months, maybe in 9 months or a year by doing that. In the long term, you are just stifling the growth of your business, stifling your team, holding them back. To create that mindset in your team, I think is so critical. I heard this quote: you never know, the person in the office, basically, whatever, never knows as much as what the person in the field does, right? So it's like the person with the customer knows the customer best. Now, maybe you have the view of the financials and the business and the strategy better, but your job is not to tell them what to do because of that. It's actually to get that information in their mind so they understand the business tied to their field exposure and the customer experience, so they can make the best decisions possible. So, the person in the field always knows best, like what is needed. Now, they might, again, help them understand the business strategy, and it can be so powerful. There's also a book, Team of Teams. If you just think like military, it's a military-based book. Field operations, team of teams out there where they can make decisions quickly, react quickly, be decisive. That's so much more powerful than being bureaucratic and slow in response. So I think empowering your field team and giving them an owner's mindset and even decision authority, right, is critical.
100%. And I think making sure they understand the why we do certain things too, because they might, like, there's this, why are they saying this? Why do we have to do this? And so making them understand and communicating why we do things is very important. And that took me a long time to realize that I wasn't doing that and wasn't communicating the why we do things. Once I figured that out, that really helped me. And I'm still making mistakes along the way, but it's you're learning and getting better as a leader all the time.
In business, there's a term called strategy deployment, where you take your strategy, but you got to deploy that to the entire organization. But help me think through purpose deployment. How do we get our biggest whys converted to everybody in the organization?
Yeah, so when we're talking to our on-site staff at say a multifamily property and say let's say parking, we've implemented a new income stream and we want people to pay for parking if they want to buy their apartment, and we get $20 extra for them to do it. And so implementing this and making sure people aren't parking in that spots and communicating it. So we're providing a service for people that want to pay for it, and for those that don't, no problem. But making sure the staff know, hey, this is going to provide extra pay, extra incentives for you if we can collect this money. It's not hurting anyone that doesn't want to do it, and these are the benefits for you and for us by implementing this new income stream.
Very good. So tell me, so engaging the field team, right, as a leadership philosophy, what other kind of philosophies, approaches do you take when you're just trying to build out and develop your team?
Yeah, I want to get to know them. So when we're walking the property, I ask, how's everything in your personal life? How are their kids? How's their husband if they have one? Whatever it is, getting to know them on a personal level is really important, and not just talking business, because when I see them next time, how was your vacation? These things, it's not all about business, and we as entrepreneurs and that kind of like grow, let's go, pausing for a second and making sure we're just not jumping into it is so valuable to connect first, then you can get into the other stuff. But that connection, they're not just a number, they're not just a widget for me, they're someone that I value. And that personal piece is where that value comes in. And it's not fake, it's real. I really want to connect and know.
So first of all, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you want to ask them to do something, but you don't really care. And we had an employee event last week, summer party, and one of the employees came up to me. He's like, he was in a different environment, and he's a maintenance technician, does unit renovations and turns for us. A phenomenal young man. We think about all these strategies for employees and all these, at the end of the day, accept, approve, appreciate. Like, just show them that you care about them. And it goes so far. He said, in my prior company, I was there for 3 years, I never got appreciated one time. We don't need to do a bunch of fancy things. Like, if you just talk to people and just show a real, and it has to be sincere, as you said, but if you just show a sincere interest in their lives and what they're doing and them, and by the way, these personal topics that you referenced, if you bring that up and they bring up a struggle with something, you maybe can help them through that. And now you're even building more trust with them. So if there's three pillars to trust: character, competence, and connection. For me to trust you, I need to trust your character, your competence in what you're doing, and then I want to have a connection with you. And so for your team to trust you, Gary, right? That connection is the first piece of it. And then as they get to know you, they'll trust your character, and they want to trust your competence as a leader of the business, strategy, other things too. So I think the connection piece is so critical, and you can't just do it strategically, but you do have to do it as business owners that have a lot going on. I think we have to be very intentional about being present and doing that, because we're wired to be thinking business too much, quite frankly. It's not because we don't care, but we're wired for results and growth sometimes, but we got to slow down, be present, and really show an interest in people. And we have to sometimes make ourselves do it, slow down, and really be intentional about connecting. So love that.
Yeah, it's great when I have a director of asset management, so he could focus on all the little details with the team, and I could be the one that's like more social and whatnot. So it's good there's that separation. That definitely helps building those relationships with the team.
Even if you go back to the owner's mindset, the more you can build that for yourself, the more you're going to enjoy, the more you can do what you just said, how much more enjoyable. You have someone that's probably really good at operations and just execution and get things done, right? They just want to get results. But if you're the personality where you like to engage and connect with people, and you can have the right team in place that's doing the other things, it will be so profoundly impactful, I think, to your own culture if you do those things. So Gary, you've done a lot of different things. Have you struggled? How are you deciding what that one thing is, like what you're passionate about? How are you distilling this down where that focus is?
Yeah, and for me, it's always about win-win scenarios. So when I was doing the restaurant delivery service, I certainly wasn't passionate about it. I was young, and the entrepreneur teacher was like, "You've got to do something you're passionate about." I'm like, "I just want to make money," like that was my young, stupid self. And so that didn't last long because we were quickly bored with doing that. Quite honestly, we were. It was going pretty well, but we were bored out of our mind. And so I had gotten film. I was very passionate about the creative side, the number side, but it didn't align with the people I wanted to kind of be around. And there was a lot of trust into other people that I had to rely on, and I didn't like that. And it got back to what I was doing in high school, which was that after school program. I was helping others build careers out of this business. We had 700 employees and 700 independent contractors, and there's still a lot of people I still keep in touch with, and they didn't know what they wanted to do in their lives, and we were able to kind of create a future for them, and a lot of them got into counseling and whatnot from working with us over time, and became youth leaders themselves. And then with real estate, I like the fact that I could take like an 80s product that hadn't had any kind of love in probably 5-6 years and revitalize it, add amenities, add a better product for residents that they could feel proud of, and also create a win-win for my investors as well. So they're getting a nicer place to live, better service, and our investors are getting some nice returns. So it's adding value and benefiting from that as well.
We can build communities, we can have impact on investors, like we can do those things. But no matter what your business is, the widget doesn't matter necessarily. Like there's opportunities within your industry. You're interacting with people. You can have an impact on people. There's just so many ways to have an impact. And I think a lot of times people get stuck on, I'm not passionate about this product. Like this was me a decade ago, is I'm not passionate about this product. But are you passionate about the people that you work with and developing them and helping them and serving them? And if you do that, if you're aligned with truly who you are, and that's what your focus is, the widget or the product doesn't really matter. Gary, this is great. I want to ask a couple of closing questions. So you talked a lot about leadership, whether it's leadership, business, but most impactful book that you've read.
Yeah, I would say Crucial Conversations. We all hate having those tough conversations. I still do. But that's a really good book to provide a framework to get you comfortable having those discussions that we, or most of us, shy away from, and you could build up resentment. And after you've had that conversation, you're like, dang, why didn't I do that like a year ago or 6 months ago? Why did I keep pushing it off? Because we're in such a better place. And so I definitely recommend that book.
Yep, Crucial Conversations. Interestingly, when I was just starting, I think in the leadership role, my boss, for whatever reason, gave that to me. Like it was a sign to me to say, hey, you really need help. You really need this book. So check this out. What are you most excited about moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's a heck of a time for multifamily real estate going forward. We've had kind of a 4-year pullback, and historically we've had a really long run up from there. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity ahead there, and improving more communities, and just living life to my fullest with my family.
Well, I love it, and I appreciate just the perspective, and even, the breadth of experience, right? From real estate, but leadership development, the restaurant industry, film. We didn't even talk about films and books and other things and speaking. I think keeping the main thing at the season of life you're in right now is also a big takeaway for me. So Gary, this has been great. How can people find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, go to our website, breakofdaycapital.com. You could sign up for our newsletter, see what we're doing. If you mention this podcast, we'll send you out my latest book, Invest Smart, Spotting Red Flags in Real Estate Syndications. And
appreciate that.
Feel free to follow us on social media.
Gary, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been great connecting. A lot of lessons here for the Purpose Matrix. Signing off.